Hi, my name is Vanessa Uribe, and this presentation is on Garry Winogrand. This quote, made by famous curator John Sukowski, um, was pretty much summing up Garry Winogrand's work. He really promoted the new radical rethinking of documentary photography, especially as Garry featured a lot of his work in his museums and shows. Garry was born in New York City in 1928. This is where he became interested in photography while serving in the military as a weather forecaster. He ended up studying painting at City College in 1947-1948 and at Columbia University 1948 to 1951, where he learned to print and develop. It was there at Columbia that Winogrand was able to really flourish. He actually took to the streets of New York almost daily, where he was able to capture human life at its most rare and vulnerable moments. In 1984, sadly, Winogrand's life was cut short at the age of 56. He died of gallbladder cancer. This here is one of Garry's most iconic photographs. Here, well, we notice the backlighting coming towards him, which just emphasizes his subject's shadows, making it look like it's coming towards us. It even looks like it's forming a V. As far as his subjects, we see that this young woman is staring at this man who's in a wheelchair, and Garry was really known for capturing not awkward scenes, but things that people would find very interesting to look at, such as this. Always achieving capturing something odd, such as this photograph here, we see this young child looking up at a hung doll, as it appears. Garry's choice of framing also emphasizes how small the kid is in comparison to that doll. Actively framing his subject, he leaves us with a view of mostly the trunk and the arm of his subject feeding it. We immediately notice the length differences. The trunk takes up more than half of the image, while the arm feeding it takes up less than a quarter. Here we see a lonely subject walking alongside the road. Through Garry's vantage point, it makes it look as if the subject is just walking from complete nowhere. We see the street lights just extending back, and the sailor, as it appears, walking, really not noticing Garry taking a picture of him. Here he captures two subjects playing in the water. We can really see the intimacy between the two subjects. They're caught in a moment of playful fun. Another snapshot photo. Here we see a young woman talking to a man and another group of individuals who seem to be laughing and having a good time. We see most of the individuals don't even look, but they're aware that they just had their photograph taken. Winogrand's later works, we can still see much of the same style he had. The subject looks unaware that her photo is being taken, but Winogrand is still able to show us the motion in which everything he was seeing at the time, such as he captures her hair blowing in the wind. You could see that the dress is hugging tightly to her left side. as we see here, due to the wind, the car is in motion, not completely sharp, showing that there were things moving. From this is one of his works from Women Are Beautiful. He captures this young woman openly laughing and smiling, and we can even see Winogrand taking this photograph on the right side of this image, like right above where that tuxedo mannequin is. We see Winogrand taking photographs. Pretty interesting. This is another very iconic image that Garry took. Here we see the dramatic content in which he had discussed beforehand. We see a interracial couple, which at the time was very not seen a lot. And we see the chimpanzees that are dressed as children and they're carrying them. In the foreground we see a child who looks as if he was staring at the chimpanzee. We also see the shadow of Garry right in front of the male figure, which shows how close he was to his subjects while taking the photograph. Here he perfectly frames his subjects all on the bench. As far as content, we can only assume that many of these women had a very fun time at the New York World Fair. You know, we don't know why one woman is laying on the shoulder of another woman. We see another woman whispering. To the right, a lady is fixing her hair. And on the far left, we actually see another interracial pair where we see the woman talking openly to the African American man, which again at the time was very limited. You know, not much of this is going on. Here, with his choice of framing, we see the background, which is a desert landscape with mountains. It's kind of ominous looking. We see the clouds looming in the background, and he's able to capture this small child as his subject, which in comparison to the background just shows how small the child is and how big of an area that they're in. This is a perfect example of Garry's snapshot aesthetic. We notice that his subjects look slightly blurred. The girl staring directly at the camera looks a little confused, maybe even upset. The couple there, the girl looks as if she's somewhat embarrassed to be caught at that moment. And again, their subjects are a little blurred. You see the male very into what he's doing. As far as dramatic content, Garry also loved humorous content as well, such as this one where a woman is comfortably talking on the phone with her legs relaxing on top of the stand in the booth. Here we see that, I guess, Garry's flash, because light is thrown all over the female subject there in the white dress. Again, none of his subjects look as if they knew that their photograph was going to be taken. Perfect example would be of the male with the old man in the background with gray hair. His eyes are closed. The one to the right with the bow tie smiling off in the distance. Here we see, the first thing we notice is a subject laying on the curbside. Possibly, we have no idea why she's there, but we see other subjects in the photograph walking casually. We see a car pass by. Um, we can really assume that Garry took this photograph because there's a woman on the floor and no one's done anything about it. Again, as far as humorous content, we see here a sign that says most beautiful apes pick up masks here. And we see two women wearing the mask. They're in bikinis. Um, Obviously, capture this photograph because we see two what would be beautiful women, but they're wearing ape masks. So we see the humor that Winogrand was trying to capture. Garry Winogrand was highly considered a street photographer, although he hated the term street photographer. He simply called himself a photographer. He changed the way documentary photography was looked at. With the new radical rethink of documentary photography, he changed everyone's views. Winogrand transformed the U.S. street photography in the 1960s with images that document social political turmoil and a sense of unease. Winogrand set forth every day with a Leica and pre-focused wide-angle lens to see what he could find on the streets of New York, and all across the U.S. for that matter.